What's up everyone? Welcome back to another Planet Coaster 2 video. This is Worldwide Benny here, and today we are going to be jumping back into the OG coaster for Cyber City. It's going to be Chop Shop, or potentially Chop Shop Chase. Working on completing the layout right now. If you've been keeping up with the channel and keeping up with this coaster, you'll have seen some of the work that I've done on it in previous videos. I haven't covered the layout too much, but essentially I've decided to add a final third act of the coaster, you could say. Since it's a multiverse coaster, I wanted to be sure to include some of the multiverse aspects of the ride. So we're using a couple of switch tracks. After it goes through the first two portions of the ride, it will pull into a little garage that you'll see in a few minutes, and then police cars will pop out in front of you like, oh no, you've been captured after street racing or, you know, escaping in the stolen car. And then you will be launched backwards into a tunnel where you will be further launched up a big winding, what will be a parking garage, back onto another switch track. Probably going to do some garage doors that shut in front of you and some police lights that go by to look like you've successfully escaped. And then you'll go on one final drop through the last windy section that'll take you back home to the Chop Shop. So this right there is that windy section. Just getting it lined up here. I wanted this last section to be a little less rigid. A lot of the coaster is pretty straight up and down. I've got the double up and double down up there on the left that you see, and lots of, straight little hills and whatnot, but nothing super windy. Here's me, I think, rolling through it just to see how it feels. Obviously, this is in way fast motion, but you'll see lots of just up downs in a straight line, nothing terribly windy. That's going to be the garage where you pull in and then get launched backwards through a tunnel up to the top, and then it'll be another switch track down to this final windy section, which feels pretty good in my opinion. I got the garage doors for the station set up and timed so that whenever you launch the coaster, they open for you, and when you return, they close. And later on in this video, you'll see me create the animatronic for the police cars that surprise you in the garage right in that section we just went through. Pretty excited with how that turned out. You'll see when we get there. For now, just running it back a couple times to see how it feels, get a test locked in, and let's see what we jump into next. I've added a couple of scenery pieces across it. As you'll see, nothing too much. I added a couple police cars with some fun lights, a little bit of work on the roads themselves in the track, and just testing out the coaster a little more. I added that truck bed at the back of the entrance there. I can't believe I hadn't come across that before, but it fits really well in the theme of Cyber City, so I wanted to just toss it in somewhere. Now, getting the street floor lined up on the next portion of the track, copying over some curbs here in a few minutes. Got to get those deleted though. So that section where it dips down is going to be my tunnel portion. I wanted to do like a classic under the freeway tunnel, or like even those big tunnels that, go underwater between cities, or like, through a mountain, something like that, with the fluorescent bulbs above and stone or brick sidings on them. I was looking for different pieces to do a tunnel here, and I actually made a rookie mistake coming up in a minute, and I'm actually going to let it slide so that folks see it. That way you don't make the same mistake that I do. I assumed that once you finished creating a building, you could rotate it any direction, but whenever you use walls, they have to remain vertical in this game, unfortunately. Not sure why they don't allow the flexibility of making them horizontal or any other direction afterwards. But you'll see here, I copy and paste this a bunch and get it stacked up. And then I go to grab the grouped building once it's done. And here we go, give it just a second. You'll see once it's there, there's no option in the advanced movement tool to flip it horizontally. I played around for just a few minutes, realized that I couldn't do it, and thought to myself, well, great, I guess I'm going to have to come up with another option. So this other option was probably what I should have done in the first place, but that's just going to be laying out the walls as they're meant to be, and then putting some roof pieces on top after these floor pieces. This tunnel, I'm actually really excited with how it turned out. I do some other work on the entrance and exit, or mainly just the entrance portion to this tunnel later. I have yet to work on the exit portion, but I get these metal roof pieces and I wanted them to be flush with the walls. So I stacked them a little lower than the top of the roof, already looking good. And then grab the red barriers that we use in the queue line, get those set in place. Oh, I didn't add them to the building, so I just went back and added them to the building. Easy fix. And then we're going to grab them as a group, grab a bunch of them, make our life quicker and easier, grab them again, delete the ones on the end, and now we have some barriers down the middle. The game doesn't have any jersey barriers, which is a little disappointing. Would have liked to see some little concrete jersey barriers at some point, but these red ones work for now, and they fit in the theming of the rest of the ride because I used them in the queue line and queue exit. Right here, I'm adding the fluorescence, and I was using the lines on this metal roof to count and keep them even. So every 8th rectangle or space on that metal roof is where I'm placing these fluorescent bulbs. Getting my last couple of them set. I was literally using a finger pointing at the screen on the 8th square of each of those to make sure I placed them in the right position, because it's pretty easy to miss that. Next, going to grab these arrows, get them set on the pathway. I realized, despite being North American, I realized that after I got started on this ride, my positioning of the track and positioning of the arrows, it's a left-hand drive area. So at least for this portion of Cyber City, we're going to say they followed after the United Kingdom and are left-hand drive. I'm not too upset about it. It really isn't too noticeable when you're going, 45, 50 miles an hour on a coaster. And hey, it's just a little goofy, unique thing. You might have seen in that last shot, one of those stoplights. I created those a couple days ago. Didn't end up catching them on video, but it's made some basic stoplights using one of the light poles and just some of the metal scaffolding pieces and the, I forget what the lights are called, but the ones that can be triggered, the little circular black lights, doing those different color and using some pipes as little covers for them. Wanted to add that little sewer gate type door over there. Just thought it looked cool, a little rustic, as if this tunnel is some old Cyber City architecture. It's been around for a while on this city block near the chop shop. And, you start in the city streets, but by the end of it, you are racing through the dingy old tunnels to escape the cops who are chasing you, which I create the cop animatronic later on. It's not perfect yet. I know I'm going to need to go in and adjust the sequencer so that they pop out and stay still, because at the end of this video, you'll notice they pop out, and then before your car fully escapes, those animatronics already reverse back into their starting positions. So I'm fairly certain there's a way that after you make them launch out forward, you can use the ride sequencer to get them to stop. So right there, I got the tunnel lined up with the track, and man, it looks cool. It's going to look really, really cool at nighttime, especially with the fluorescence above. I actually, in this video, don't reference what it looks like at nighttime. I was just on a roll and building away and forgot to do it. But even in the daytime, it's looking really cool. Just clearing out some real estate here. So that area I'm clearing out right now is going to be a big open parking garage. Those two swirls will be around like ramps that go up the parking garage. So haven't quite figured out how I'm going to design it yet, but it'll probably just be a big square with a couple alternate angles just to fit the cohesiveness of the ride. Next, I set up a couple of these roofing pieces to get a good... I originally was going to use them as like the ramp pieces for this portion of the coaster, but they weren't quite tall enough, as you see right there, to get all the way up to the next flat portion. So set them down, but end up going back and using some non-gridded wall pieces to build this ramp. So you'll see in just a second. They also don't match super well with the color of that plaster ground. Here's where I go ahead and grab these wall pieces to create the ramps. Pretty easy process, obviously, using the plaster wall pieces, the non-gridded ones. Get them to match the color, point them up, tilt them at different angles to create a relatively smooth slope, and then copy it right over to the other side once it's done. It's a little tricky to get them lined up just so you don't have a little ledge peek over, but again, there are going to be little imperfections here and there. No big deal. Coaster's going fast at this part and it's going in reverse. Nobody's going to be paying that close of attention to that specific small spot on the ramp. So next up, get the wall lined up there, move it to the other side, toss it down. Want to make sure that we're not cutting any arms off or screwing up any collision with the coaster. Get the angle set for this portion. This is going to be a little ramp up into the alleyway garage, and then just getting it lined up there. So yeah, essentially the layout of this coaster, you launch out into the city from the chop shop and you cruise around. You start seeing cops as you're going. Thematically in my head, you're leaving the chop shop and something fast and doing a little street racing. And, I'll probably have a cop animatronic pop out right as you turn into this area in this final segment before that first transfer track. And then that'll be the first we're getting chased, and you'll hit those little bumps there, pull in, garage door will shut behind you. You'll think you're safe. And then 2 cop cars that you'll see later on pop out in front of you with the animatronic push track tool. But for now, we are just getting these old stone walls laid out. I really liked how these old, I forget the name exactly, old stone walls look. They just look like some old city bricks or cinder blocks, The bricks were a little too small and they look cool, but the cinder block feel these give, I thought was really good. And yeah, I was really excited. They line up almost perfectly with that section right there. That isn't even actually part of the same building, just happenstance lined up just right. Made my job a lot easier with building this portion. So delete a couple trees, make it a little longer at the end, round it off, and then cut the holes in the wall. That's where the bays for my animatronic cop cars are going to be. Grab my cop car, make sure it fits. Yep, sure does. For those cop cars out there, I built some in a previous video. I used a workshop car model that I found and then used the lettering to build police, some light bars on the top with those LED strips. And then I haven't done it on these yet, but on those ones in the middle of the track, I actually used the spinning animatronic interactive attachable scenery piece and put 4 of the stage light type things and set them to red and blue and have them spinning. And then I tucked that inside of the car so that it looks like the little LEDs on top are producing the light that you're seeing in that rotation. But yeah, that cop car is just bouncing in and out right there, but that's more or less what it does, except it's going to push out, stop, and then you'll accelerate in reverse really quickly from that tire launch there, drop down into the tunnel and be accelerated even quicker. It actually ends up getting up to 60 miles an hour, which I believe is the quickest point of the coaster, and pretty quick to go in reverse regardless. And it'll take you up that big spiral there at the end into the next parking garage. So yeah, just copied it, put it on the other side. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I do believe, I end up having to rotate the direction of the car just because of the way the start and end points on the animatronic were. I'll also probably need to go back and scoot the police car a little further forward on the animatronic bar, just so you don't see the little rectangle it's attached to on the back of it. I could probably tuck it underground and move it a little higher as well, but I was moving pretty quick, just trying to get the baseline ideas down here. So it's not perfect yet, but again, I don't like to do all the polishing in these videos. There's a lot of itty bitty stuff you can do in this game and lots of little inconsistencies that parks can have just as you're moving quick. And I clean those up on my own time. It's, not the most exciting thing to watch. So here we go. We're trying to get the sequencer timed out. Having issues with the trigger even going right here. So give it a second, reset them. And then let's see, where do I go? Yep. Get them set up. I had to move them around. For some reason, they just weren't triggering whenever the coaster pulled up against there. I don't know if it was a bug or if it was just a mistake on my end, but I got it set up. And then I put the coaster on 3 times speed here in a second. Boom, now it works. But the issue here is I don't want it to be improperly timed, because if you pull up, the cops pull out, and then you sit there for 3 seconds doing nothing and don't put it in reverse, it just feels a little silly. So I think I finally get it lined up here. It ended up being around 7 seconds delay on the trigger. You have to put the trigger at the point where it enters the switch track. You can't actually put the trigger on the switch track portion itself. So you just have to use that timer to get it set up. Pretty close there. Fast forward a couple times to see how it looks from the rider's eye view. Pretty close there. Just need to scoot it back a little bit. Boom, they pop out. We hit reverse. Looks great. Getting the speed set up on that launch track. And then I believe I jump into working on the roof. Let's see. Yep. I go to grab these end pieces right here, but pretty promptly realize that the metal wall is going to be sitting lower than that anyway, or the metal ceiling is going to be sitting lower than that anyway. So I don't need them. Throw those metal roofs up, copy paste, super easy. It gets a little tricky over here, just trying to make sure that I have no weird crossovers. I go back and do a little bit of adjusting here, but looks fine for now. I end up, I believe, getting rid of the curve on this right side because it looked a little awkward and flat there. Plus, when you're coming in right there, you only really see the curve on the left side. I might do some fancy work on the right here in a bit, but again, just getting basic layout going here. Get this end piece. I wanted a little texture on the front end when you enter the garage, so it doesn't just look flat and dull. And then I actually get that curved portion of the roof on the right teed up right there. So scoot this out a little bit. I wanted to try to get it set up to have pillars. So let's see. Oh yeah, boxing in the animatronic portion so I don't have any light spill through. Just copy over some of the roofing pieces and push them down. Make it a little bit longer, give it just enough extra space to be kind of realistic, but nobody's ever going to see that portion of the park, so as long as it's covered up, I'm good with it. And then tried to extend this a little bit. I was originally just going to put a pillar in the middle of there, between the wall and that roof, but decided I wanted to slide the roof out a good bit regardless. So push it out just a bit, get it set up where I want it. That's far enough out now. That looks good. I like that curved roof piece. Those metal roofs look really nice in this game. Lots of different textures on this ride, which is cool. We got the stone inside coming from the outside metal walls, the plaster floors that look like concrete, and then the metal roof. Next, we're getting some stone arches. This is how I'm going to handle the entrance to this old school garage right here. Get it set up to where it's flush and you don't see the squared edge on it. And then copying it to the other side was a massive pain. I couldn't, the angle I was at, it was really, really hard to see how far in depth wise it was to the roof portion there. So bear with me as I get all this figured out for just a moment. And then getting these wall sections figured out as well to where it hides any of the rough edges on the arch portion of this entrance. Boom. There we go. Starting to look better. a little higher. Not sure what I'm going to do up top there, how I'm going to make it look exactly like a parking garage. This was just basic stuff popping into my head. I probably need to go reference some actual like old school concrete cinder block parking garages. Maybe some like old New York ones or something like that. That'll give me some inspiration on how to design the architecture around it on this side. But for now, I was just doing basic stuff that was popping into my head. Also dealing with selecting an item and hitting move while it's in a building group and it throwing the camera a mile away, which I don't know if there's a way to work around that, but I was just dealing with it for the time being. All right, so we're going to do a final ride through right here of Chop Shop Chase and take a look at how the ride feels. Really digging these street sections. Next video will probably be a good bit of me working on the main portion of this ride, getting it finished out. You know, this whole first section is pretty close. I just need to finish lining up the walls and with windows and doors and balconies and things like that. Get a couple more cars laid out and just, you know, add a little bit of flair here and there. The double down, double up section, I think, is one of my favorite features of the ride. I would love to ride on something like that in real life. Tight bank turn here. Throws you right, throws you left. I'll probably make that a little quicker once I get more in depth with this coaster. Pull into the bay in the garage just when you think you've escaped. Boom. 2 police cars show up. Uh-oh, we got to hit reverse and get out of there. Reverse down the tunnel, accelerate to 60 miles an hour through the tunnel, up the big helix, get to the top and reverse. This is where you'll back into a big parking garage. Doors might shut in front of you to block off the switch track view. You know, we've made our escape, and then we're going to launch down and do some cool drifting to the finale. This winding section is great. Really happy with how it turned out. I got to do a little bit of coaster smoothing, but I feel like it's super smooth. Could probably be a little bit quicker. I didn't change the launch speed from the second switch track quite yet. And then enter the garage to the chop shop, and we are done. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for watching. Everybody tuning in and commenting. I appreciate it so much. If anybody liked that 5-minute build video I did, let me know in the comments. If there's anything else you want to see built, just let me know. I am happy to give a stab at it. But otherwise, get ready in the next couple of days. We're going to be doing some serious work on Chop Shop Chase and really knocking out the rest of the theming and getting this one done, because I've got lots of cool ideas and I am ready to move on to the next coaster. Thanks for tuning in again. This is Worldwide Benny, and I will see you in the next one.